What the Aboriginal people do is they will go into this dreamtime state and they will create the reality that they want. They will create the rain, the weather conditions. They will create whatever it is because they will tell you, and this is so important, they will tell you that what we're living in now is an illusion. It's not really reality. But when they go into these other dimensions or whatever you want to call it, that's more real. And that's where their power is. And that's where they actively create with the mind. They'll tell you that we don't use our subconscious minds. They have learned how to shapeshift, remote view, they're telepathic, telekinesis where you move objects, with your mind. They have learned how to use the power of the mind, the subconscious, to a much different degree than we have.
Welcome to Caritas Consciousness Project. I'm Gloria Cuello, and Caritas is dedicated to promoting the evolution of consciousness as the key to individual growth and global healing. We draw from a wide assortment of both ancient wisdom and leading-edge studies in science, consciousness studies, spirituality, healing, philosophy. And in addition to our online presentations with guest speakers, we offer classes and study groups also online. There are over 100 video recordings on our YouTube channel, which is Caritas Consciousness Project. As a nonprofit organization, we rely on the support of our members and donors to keep Caritas going. If you'd like to support our program, you can make a donation or become a member on our website. And you can also access the videos on our website as well. And the website is caritascenter.org. And now let me introduce tonight's speaker. Robbie Holz is an internationally respected healer, frequent media guest, and an author of the award-winning books read in over 44 countries, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing and Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening. The Aboriginal healing secrets are revealed at the request of the remote Aboriginal tribespeople. Using Aboriginal healing techniques, Robbie healed herself of hepatitis C, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, and treatment-induced temporary brain damage. Her latest book, Angels in Waiting, How to Reach Out to Your Guardian Angels and Spirit Guides, is filled with clear directives on how to engage angels and benevolent spirit guides for powerful assistance with your struggles and desires. I've read her first two books, and I haven't read that one, but I look forward to it. And maybe this is the first one. This is about Robbie's husband, Gary, and his journey with MS and healing, and the Aboriginal people and their healing practices and spiritual practices. And this is the second book, I believe, Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening. And they are both just heart-opening and mind-opening and just beautiful works. I recommend anyone who is engaged in any kind of healing practice to read it, because it really has absolutely vital information in it about healing from the inside out, which is how I see it. So anyway, let's get on with the show. Introduce Robbie. And thank you so much for joining us, Robbie. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to talk to you as well. Very honored to be here.
Great. Let's see. Let's start with your husband, Gary, was diagnosed with an aggressive, rapidly progressing form of multiple sclerosis. in 1983. And within 5 years, he was in a wheelchair, unable to feel most of his body. And in 1994, the doctors told him his organs were beginning to shut down and gave him at best 2 years to live. Synchronistically, at that time, he met a woman in a jazz bar who had a connection to an Aboriginal healer who she was sure could help him. So Gary traveled to a remote Aboriginal village in the hope that the healers there could reverse his MS. His time in the outback of Australia was life-changing on every level. Would you tell us about his experiences and their effect? And also, your husband was a pragmatic scientist, and what would make a respected physicist, a multiple patent holder, and a successful businessman, very left brain oriented, to do such an unconventional thing?
Yeah. Probably what would lead many people to do such a very different thing is desperation to survive.
Exactly.
He had a death sentence of about 2 years, but in reality, he had about 6 months left to live. And he wanted to survive because he had two children that he really wanted to be around for. So he was a scientist, very much, this, it doesn't exist if it can't be proven over and over with. And this was like the going to the outback to Aboriginal healers was like the last thing on his list. And it was literally the last thing on his list. There was nothing else Western medicine could do for him. So again, it was a number of synchronicities that created this opportunity for him to go into the outback in his wheelchair, unloaded from the plane, like kind of like cargo, and go into the outback in this really harsh environment and spend a short amount of time with this tribe, and came back, like you said, dramatically different, more so emotionally than anything else, and in his belief systems, because he had been a quadriplegic for about 7 years and couldn't feel anything from the neck down. And when he went into the outback for this short period of time, he regained feeling in his body. And that was a wake-up call right there. Nothing Western medicine could do for him, but suddenly in a very short time, he's able to feel his body. And he started to really pay attention to what they were teaching him in the outback and recognize that there's a lot of what he called gray areas that can't be proven that exist nonetheless. And I'm sure that many of your listeners and viewers today are aware of that, but this was very different for him. But it dramatically changed his life. He came back, he was able to kind of clumsily walk on that airplane down the aisle, supporting himself on the seats. And he decided to devote the rest of his life to what the Aboriginal tribes people had taught him. And that is what you might call psychoneuroimmunology, how the mind affects the body and the immune system. Quantum physics, this is what they were dealing with, but that's not what they would call it. And he spent the rest of his life devoted to helping other people with this beautiful ancient healing wisdom that the Aboriginal people had given him, which they'd only done that one other time to a Chinaman years before. And they gave it to him because they said he was a very well-respected scientist and had the ability and the credibility to get this information out into the world. And surprising to us, certainly to me, I didn't expect that it to be in now 45 countries, because it really, their teaching resonates with people. Doesn't seem to matter what culture, it just resonates. You can feel the truth when you hear it or read it. And that's why I think it's done so well.
Yes, it's I certainly resonated with everything I read. There wasn't one thing in either book that I didn't agree with, that I didn't resonate with. It's very beautiful. Let me ask you, when Gary meets Carolyn at the jazz bar and she tells him about the Aboriginal healers, he says, I would have to lay aside everything that I've ever believed to be true, the very foundation of my life, because his life was science. That's where he felt comfortable.
Yeah.
Frankly, that scares me. And Carolyn asks, and what are you protecting with those beliefs? And I thought that was an incredible question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually the Aboriginal tribes people gave us 5 steps to healing. And the first one is the willingness. Are
Mm-hmm.
you willing to make the changes, whether it's, physical or emotionally or in belief systems? Are you willing to stop letting that body of yours carry this emotional weight that you've been carrying? Because a lot of us will have things happen to us and we carry that with us. And it's our story, it's our identity. And you need to be willing to let it go, to see it maybe a little differently from a different perspective. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened to Gary. He did not realize that because he was very abused by his father. He had an alcoholic father who was very abusive to him physically and emotionally. And Gary was a brilliant man, and he got really good at learning to numb himself emotionally to the
It
point
was
where
his survival mechanism as a child. It
yeah,
got him through. Mm-hmm.
exactly. It was his survival mechanism. Good point. And he literally ended up just becoming, paralyzed in not just his feelings, but in his body as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so what the Aboriginal people taught him in the outback was you've got to let go of that and forgive, because otherwise your body cannot move forward. You're blocking energy, you're blocking healing. He didn't recognize the connection. And when he finally realized that his father was his greatest teacher, maybe not the best teacher he would have picked, but it was a powerful teacher nonetheless, he
Mm-hmm.
was then able to start feeling again. And that's when his body started to heal. And that's when he started to feel again, which he had not felt that body in 7 years. And that
That's
happened quite quickly. So, yeah.
amazing, really amazing. Could you talk about the Aboriginal healers, Rose? We'll talk about Rose and Ray. Just explain a little bit about why they were the perfect kind of intermediaries and guides for him
Yeah.
and
Well, so
healers.
Gary went into the outback. I mean, the outback is vast, it's huge, and they are so safeguarded from society or civilization. They have no connection to civilization. However, she did have connections to, you know, non-Aboriginal people. And Ray also had, I think it was Brisbane. I'm trying to remember, but
Yes, Brisbane.
yeah,
Yes, Brisbane.
he had children who had moved out of the village and were also in the city, so to speak.
Mhm.
So they both were able to communicate in English. And that was important because that's what Gary knew. Although he would come to realize that they're all telepathic and that
Mhm.
they can read his thoughts and he could communicate to them, but he didn't know that at first. So they were able to, it was beautiful that Rose spent the day with Gary, and then Ray would talk to Gary at nighttime over the fire while they're eating,
Mhm.
to just sort of, asking questions, a little bit different perspective. And what a lot of people didn't know, at least Gary didn't know, but a lot of people reading the book may not pick up on initially, is that the tribe, the nation, they call them nations, was
Mhm.
actually also healing him, even though he may not have been in the same
Yes,
with them.
yes.
So the nations are very small, usually like 24 people, and that tribe were actually sending him healing energy. Were doing what they could do to help him heal faster. So
Yeah.
there was a lot more involved.
There was a community effort. It was a
Yes,
community effort. Yeah.
yes.
Um, would you talk about the 5 essentials of healing that Rose worked with him?
Yeah. So this is ancient wisdom that they have passed down for at least 60,000 years. If not, we think it's much, much longer. They are
Mm.
the Aboriginal people are the oldest continuous culture on the planet. And they have passed this information on, word of mouth, for I mean, how many generations with 60,000 years plus, right? But their healing system they gave it to us and asked us to take it out into the world because they said that we Western civilized people did not truly understand how healing worked. That it's not just the body, it's the emotions, it's the body. That what plays a part is the body, the emotions, and the soul or spirit. Those three are very involved, and you can't just treat one. And that what we didn't realize, that I think that people are starting to come around now, is that the emotions are very tied to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have, I'm just going to give this as a little bit of a foundation, Gloria, so people understand a little bit more of the 5 steps.
Mm-hmm.
When we have emotions, it creates a different kind of cell. And Dr. Emoto, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with Dr. Emoto's photography. It showed how those cells were different. If it was a negative or fear-based cell, emotion, it created a different, very discombobulated cell, and it created a sort of a blockage of energy throughout the body.
Mm-hmm.
And it would lodge in different places according to what kind of emotion. So for instance, we carry grief in our chest. That's where you can feel it. And so if you have a propensity for heart disease or breast cancer, you really don't want to be hanging on to grief because you could be creating some real problems. And so it blocks the energy, it blocks the healing, it creates like this swampy, soupy environment, muddy, perfect for disease to be manifesting in. The flip side, and the most unhealthy emotions for the body are typically shame and guilt.
Mm. And
And
fear, right?
and fear, right? And
Yes.
I was raised Catholic, very much a part of that upbringing.
Mm.
So it's just, you don't realize the damage you're creating to the body, and that the body just starts crumbling under this emotional weight. The flip side is when you have more love-based emotions, it creates a different cell. We saw how it was like a beautiful snowflake. It
Mm-hmm.
creates this vibrant, higher frequency environment that the body thrives in. And it also creates this beautiful movement of energy. So the emotions that the body heals with and thrives with, obviously love, but also gratitude and forgiveness, and not just forgiveness of others, but forgiveness of self.
Mm-hmm.
So what Gary came to realize, and what we've been teaching people, is that the emotions are very connected to the body. They cannot be separated. They work in tandem. So if the body, the emotions, and the soul are all aligned with healing, anything can be healed. It doesn't matter what it is. Sometimes people do not have the soul's perspective in this, and they don't realize maybe this is here for a reason. Recognizing as old souls, which I think we all are here, you grow more through the challenges, through this diversity, these difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
So it's possible that this has been given to you to help you grow, to help you become more awake, for any number of reasons, but the soul's voice is in this as well. So you need to pay attention to that. And the meditation that we're going to do at the end will bring that into play. It's just, it's a very, like you said, it's a very powerful meditation.
And Gary would always ask the person's soul
Yes.
if, if he could, if it was appropriate for him to heal this person or help this person heal.
Yes, good point. It wasn't up to us. It was that was the very first question. Are we supposed to help them?
Yeah.
Because if they're not ready for that yet, then there's no, whatever we do, it's just not going to sustain itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized that, and I don't know about you, Gloria, but when I talk about a lot of the stories of people that we helped, and in the awakening book, and the little child that came to us that was born blind, it was heartbreaking to discover that it was the soul's intention that this child stay blind for a number of reasons. It's not usually karma, although that can certainly play into it, but because of what it was here to learn and achieve in this lifetime. But we were able to help it to a certain degree. So people think, what am I doing wrong? Or maybe I'm not the best healer for this or whatever. It's may have nothing to do with that. It may be the soul's voice in that. So that's important. So to get back to your original question about the 5 steps, the first one is willingness. Are you willing to change? And we are not built for change. Humans don't like change, but you need to see things differently. You need to respond differently. You need to see the bigger picture, and willing to stop. I mean, sometimes, we started this with, what did it take to get Gary into the outback, going to an indigenous culture, right? Desperation. We used to see people, when Gary and I were working as a healing couple, we're not their first choice. We're quite often the last choice. And people would come to us with pages of ailments and problems and diseases. And it's kind of like, well, are you willing now? What's it going to take to finally let go of these emotions that are creating a toxic situation? So the first step is willingness. The second step is awareness. And the more awareness you have, the faster you heal, because you need to have an awareness of, why is this here on my plate? Why does this keep coming up in front of me? That's part of your soul's journey. Why is this here? If you have a resistance to something, it's going to keep showing up until you finally can let go of that. So have an acceptance. I may not like this, but it's here for a reason. It's here for a powerful reason quite often. The third step is acceptance. Like what I just said, you may not like it, but it's here for a reason. Okay. Then you come back to number 4 is empowerment. Take back your power. We haven't gone into it yet, but I almost died twice. And the doctors told me that I had what was incurable, they didn't think I was going to live very long. I certainly didn't think I was going to live very long. But at some point I decided I want to live longer, because my child is way too young to remember me. He won't have any memories of me. And I wanted to be around to parent him as long as I possibly could. So I took back my power, that no matter what all the medical experts were telling me, I just knew I could get better. I just knew it. And you may not feel that at first, but you just keep one step at a time. You fake it till you make it, right? So you have that mantra until you just start believing and moving in that direction. And then, so that's take back your power. And the 5th one is focus. Focus on what you want. We tend to focus on what we don't want. And I think most of the people here are very aware of that. The law of attraction, what you focus on, what you obsess on, certainly you're bringing to you. So we don't talk about, we would not talk about, I'm going to heal this cancer. We would say, because we don't want to give any power to the cancer and we don't want to give any focus to it. Instead, we would say, I am creating a healthy, vibrant body. That's where you put your focus. So those are the 5 basic steps. We go into more detail.
A lot more detail. And
yeah,
I mean, because it's his whole, both of you, I suppose, in the first book, it really describes his journey with each of those steps. And, when he's talking about willingness, he says he had to be willing to die. Do you remember that? It's and that struck me, because I've always felt that there's a point in every spiritual journey where we have to confront that, and be willing to surrender everything, even our own lives, in order for us to evolve. It's a difficult thing to explain. It sounds so dramatic, but in my experience, it's just a part of our healing journey, or our spiritual journey at some point.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Yeah. And and another, like, with the empowerment step, I had written down, he says, or I think it was Rose who said, either Rose or Ray said, when we blame others for the conditions of our lives, we are giving our power away, right? So every time we think, oh, it's this disease doing this to me, or it's that person, my father, who was so abusive in his case, right? In Gary's case, it was very hard for him to take back that power because he was conditioned to, I mean, it was clearly his father who was, um, the instilled a lot of fear in him as a child. So it was hard to switch that. We have like a personal myth that we develop as part of our survival mechanism. If I just don't show any emotion, if I don't feel anything, then I won't call attention to myself and I'll be safer, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. So one of the things that Rose used so much in their healing journey was muscle testing to find answers to Gary's, subconscious emotions and thoughts, which play such a part in both disease and healing. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, because I think it's interesting. You learn the more you go down this journey, the more you realize the body doesn't lie.
Mm-hmm.
The emotions, the mind certainly will lie to you, but the body does not lie. And so you can just imagine this physicist being muscle tested and finding out that his beliefs were not at all what he thought were really going on, but they were quite accurate. I use muscle testing all the time,
Do you?
including down to what supplements do I which of the ones here, whether it's online or in a store, which supplements are best for me, how many do I take, do I need them today,
Mm-hmm.
even even when I'm picking out vegetables and fruits, which ones are best for me. I use muscle, and I use my fingers, so it's not
Mm-hmm.
it's very discreet. You can do it in the grocery store, nobody even knows you're doing it.
Right. You don't have to have your arm out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I have to say I never got good at that, but I would like to at some point. Um, so the Aboriginal people teach that the mind, body, and spirit are connected, right?
Mhm.
And they talk about our environment. We talk about our environment as being what is outside of us, what is surrounding us, but they have a different definition for that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, they have so many belief systems that might seem foreign to us, but the more you know them, you realize they're quite advanced. The and we can only talk about the Aboriginals that we experienced, that we encountered. And the ones that we're talking about are the ones who are deliberately safeguarded out in the middle of the outback. And they are what I would consider to be fifth dimensional frequency vibration beings. And they have many different belief systems than what our current cultures do. They understand we're all one. They know that. That's why they'll tell you you can feel the rain coming. You can communicate telepathically to everything. And they would communicate to where's the water, what herbs will help me heal with what.
Mhm.
And what they will tell you is that when we were all at one point telepathic, and when we decided to speak out loud, that's when we lost our telepathic abilities to communicate to the water, the earth, the animals, the birds, the fish. And they believe that by speaking out loud, it's quite chaotic and very primitive. We've actually gone backwards with that ability.
Inefficient, right?
Very inefficient. I'm telepathic to I mean, telepathy is a major way that my spirit healing team communicates to me, and they can just brain dump a whole lot of information in just a split second. You just know it's just very interesting. So, but they know that we're all one. They know we're all connected. And I got to feel that when I went into the outback with women. It was women from around the United States were invited, and I was one of the very honored ones to be invited. In 2008, and I got to experience being in these powerful ceremonies with them. And I can't talk about the ceremonies, but I can say that what I felt when I was in these ceremonies, because the frequency, the vibration is so high, it's raised so high, which love is a high vibration. I could feel that we were all one, and it felt like everything was just melding together. you know, the dragonfly into the cloud, into the sky. I mean, it just all felt like one. And I could also feel the tremendous love from Mother Earth, from Gaia,
Mhm.
that she passionately loves us. And that was, I mean, I had known it intellectually, these things, but to actually feel it just will just rock you off your feet. It's astonishing. So,
And you're very good at describing it because I could feel it just reading your book.
oh, thank you.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
I'll
it's
give
so
a lot of
beautifully
credit to
written.
Christiane, my co-writer. She's just
Uh-huh.
fabulous. Yeah, I just love her dearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the Aboriginal tribes people, they don't, it's so interesting. They don't have a word, a possessive word. There's no my. That's not the culture they live in. It's very community oriented. It's all one. There's no possessive nouns. They teach how to share from a very early age. There's no competition. There's no judgment. There's just tremendous compassion and sharing and patience and gentleness and gratitude, immense gratitude.
Yes.
They live in so much gratitude. It is so harsh in the outback. I can't possibly convey how rough it is.
Oh, you conveyed it.
Oh, I was not prepared for that, which is probably good. I had no idea. But I mean, you have to wear a net around your face because the flies and the bugs are just so intense. And it's so cold at night and it's so hot during the day. And every hour it's a different wave of some insect that's hitting you. And we were so dusty and dirty. I have to say, it was quite refreshing to not care how matted your hair got, and it was very freeing. Uh, but when we came back from the outback, we were out there for a while. That shower was probably the longest, best, luxurious shower I've ever had in my life. And they don't, and I remember thinking, they don't have access to that. They're still out there. That's where they live. And yet they are just in this immense gratitude.
Mhm.
So it's very eye-opening.
Yeah. It was beautiful how all the Western women who were invited to this gathering, they brought gifts for the women, the Aboriginal women, and at the end, the Aboriginal women leave, and there's this pile of gifts that they return to the women because they had no use for them. You know, they accepted them gratefully, but then they gave them back. You know.
Right. They're so in the moment and they're not into materialism or, you know, any of that. And it was really funny just seeing this. But and then I realized, well, they're nomadic. They're, you know, they can't be carrying around. Somebody gave one of them this big giant red beautiful red purse, you know. I'm sure it was a very expensive, you
A
know,
Gucci
labeled.
purse or something.
Oh yeah, and it was really fun to see one of them carrying it around for a little day. I don't even know what she had in it, but one of the Aboriginal women was walking around with it, and then the next day it's in the pile because they don't need that.
I didn't realize they were nomadic. I thought they had
Some of
villages.
them are. Some of them are. Yeah.
Oh, because
Yeah.
Gary, the village Gary stayed with, the tribe he stayed with had a village, right?
Yes.
Were
But
they
some of the
nomadic also?
Yeah, no, well, I don't know about his was very different than mine. His was in 1994.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know that they're always together all the time. I think it depends on also the land and what's going on at the time. One of
Hmm.
the things but I know that when I was together with that group, women came from all over. It wasn't just one tribe. Women came and they brought their children, they brought their dogs from all over. And some of them were nomadic. Some of them
Hmm.
weren't. But it was really interesting when I was in the outback with them performing ceremonies, and they are so not into time. They are in the present moment like nothing I've ever encountered before. You have no idea when they're going to say ceremony. They'll call you ceremony, ceremony, and you just run to the ceremony site. And because it's not about, well, it's 5 o'clock. It's no, it's because the time is right. It's because this is the moment the energy has built and that they've been working on it day and night. So it's a very, very different world.
Yeah, really, really. And how could we possibly apply these things in our own lives when our lives are so technologically driven and materially driven. We're not all terribly materialistic, but it's
I
how
think
would you?
I think this is what, Gloria, this is why they're giving us this information. And this is why they invited we white women to come, which had never ever happened before. They're trying to give us this information, not just because they're dying out and not choosing to incarnate here, but because they are trying to help us become more enlightened, more awakened.
Right.
This is what it looks like. This is what fifth dimensional living looks like. Tremendous gratitude. They are connecting to the other side. We might call it meditation. They'll call it, dream time, whatever, but they're doing that half the time. And they start at age 3 or 4. And that is more real to them than this world, this illusion that we live in. So, and they are, it's just very interesting. It's a very different world. And I see us shifting slowly, going in that direction. But they're opening us up to this is how you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you talk about the dream time?
Yeah, the dream time. That is, they spend a lot of time in that. Before I talk about the dream time, I do want to say one thing, because we were talking about how to get there.
Yeah.
One of the things that they taught us is that and this was Ray said, we are so afraid of emotions, certain emotions. And we hang on to them, or we avoid them, or we suppress them. And what they were teaching us is feel it, and then let it go. What's next?
Yeah.
And that's not something that we're taught. Wouldn't it be beautiful if these were taught to us at a very young age?
Absolutely.
Feel it, embrace it. What is it here to teach you? How is it here to help you grow? And then move on. What's next? And that will help you tremendously, and it will help the body tremendously, because then, you're moving on, the energy is shifting and changing in you as well. So to go back to dream time, there's a lot of different ways to describe dream time, but it's a very deep altered state of no thought. One of the things that we are so this is just part of the culture. It's almost like my guides have called it like almost like an obsession, like a disease. We're in constant thought. We're not used to not having the brain, very noisily leading the way and constantly having a voice in what's going on. And they have learned, and again, they start at age 3 and 4, where they just quiet that mind so that they can connect to, like you were talking about earlier, from the inside out. They connect to that inner wisdom, because that inner wisdom is there for all of us, and it will teach you how to heal. It will teach you how to become more enlightened. It will teach you how to have a better relationship. It will teach you everything you need to know. But we have to quiet this mind first. So, and that's it. And so whatever works for you, whether it's an active meditation like washing dishes or washing a car or mowing the lawn, or a different meditation where you stare at the flame, whatever, but just to learn to quiet that mind a little bit more all the time. I had a friend who said, if you think you don't have time to meditate, you need to go sit down for an hour and think about that, right? This is exactly when you need it most. Learning how to quiet the mind. And it's very, very powerful. And what the Aboriginal people do is they will go into this dreamtime state, and they will create the reality that they want. They will create the rain, the weather conditions. They will create whatever it is, because they will tell you, and this is so important, they will tell you that what we're living in now is an illusion. It's not really reality. But when they go into these other dimensions, or whatever you want to call it, that's more real. And that's where their power is. And that's where they actively create with the mind. They'll tell you that we don't use our subconscious minds. They have learned how to shapeshift, remote view, they're telepathic. Telekinesis, where you move objects, with your mind. They have learned how to use the power of the mind, the subconscious, to a much different degree than we have. I think it's been safeguarded from us, but I think we're starting to take our power back and realize how to do these things.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, little by little. I mean, remote viewing is a big thing, and it's I love seeing how amazed people are when they can do it for the first,
Yeah.
try it and do it and describe the target, and they're so amazed that they can do it. We have all these abilities that we don't know we have
And
because we
and
haven't
yeah,
developed.
and telepathy. And that's what happened to Gary when he came back from the outback. He started developing all these abilities that the Aboriginals showed him when he was in the desert. He started
Mhm.
becoming telepathic. He started to be able to see auras around people. He started to be able to see inside the body and see the inner workings and see how many tumors and what was blocking what. And what was interesting is when he would communicate telepathically, the only people that knew he was communicating to them telepathically were the autistic people,
Yes, yes,
autistic
yes, yes.
children.
Yeah, that
They
was quite
always
something.
knew he was communicating. They don't have the filters. And
Yeah,
I thought that was fascinating.
that is fascinating. Let me see if I can bring up a picture of Gary. Hold on one sec. Uh, there it is.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I'll tell you, that man learned how to focus when he came back. He was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that
he
something? Beautiful eyes. His
Beautiful
eyes
eyes,
are
very
just.
handsome man. I just, yeah, he his wisdom um astounded me. He just,
Yeah.
yeah, he was a brilliant man.
And the second book, Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening, uh, that is, you know, partly healing, partly a beautiful, beautiful love story of how you met. And do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that at all?
Yeah. Well, geez, where to start on that one? I met Gary after he'd been into the outback,
Yeah.
and he was a very different man when I met him in 2001. Very different man, and he had a reputation as a healer, and I had a sister, a younger sister, and I adore my sisters. I'm so blessed with these beautiful sisters. One of them was going blind. She'd been in a car accident and it created some problems, and she was losing almost all her vision. She had a little bit of peripheral vision in one eye. And I didn't know him very well. I met him at a party, and he's at an outdoor barbecue for the 4th of July. And he said, and at the time I met him at the party at this barbecue, I didn't realize, but all the past lives flashed across my face when he saw me, when he was introduced to me.
Like
This was,
transfigurations.
yeah, which freaked him out because he had never had that happen before. And I can imagine the first time when you meet somebody and all of a sudden their face just keeps morphing into all these past lives that you've had together. And I got nothing. I had no clue. I was completely clueless. I wasn't interested in getting to know this man. I just, my attention was elsewhere. So he knew that we had a connection, and he knew that he had to win me over, right? And so um, at this point, my passion was how to heal animals. And he said, "Well, if you come and work for me, I will teach you how to heal animals." And so I thought, okay, I'll that nobody else can offer. I'll take you up on that. So I went and worked with him, and when he heard about my sister, he said, "Well, if I bring her here." She was back in the Midwest and we were in Washington State. And he said, "Bring her here. I think I can help her." And so she flew out here. Again, like Gary, this just does makes no sense for her to come out here when she's been to the best doctors that
Mm.
Chicago and everybody else can offer, Mayo Clinic and everything else. But she trusted me. And so she came out here. And in a very short period of time, he healed her where she had vision again. And when he did that, I realized he did that out of love for me. And I instantly just, like somebody had flipped a switch, I just fell in love with the man instantly. It's hard not to, right? When you heal your sister of
It was
going,
5 days.
yeah, it was pretty
You
quick.
had 5 days
Yeah,
to
that's right.
spend
Because she
there.
only had about a week. Yeah. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Yeah.
And on the 5th day, she was seen.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Amazing.
anyway, it was really fascinating to watch him heal people and how he did that and how he communicated to the other side and how he really tuned into his spirit guide, Julie, who was with him all the time, an angelic presence, and that she worked through him. She would work through his eyes, through his hand. And it was, oh, it was just such fulfilling work to be able to help people and to not, like we talked about earlier, there are some people who are not going to get better, and you never knew who it was going to be, because we talk about in the awakening book, there was a young man who had a number of brain tumors, and it was going to die from them, and his fiance said, well, I'm going to marry you anyway, no matter how much short time we have together, I still want to marry you. So they got married, and his new mother-in-law said, I want you to come and see this man. Well, it was Gary. And you could tell that this young man, early 20s, had no belief system to back coming to us up. He just, that was the last thing he wanted to do, was to come to visit us. I think they were living a couple hours away, but to appease the mother-in-law, he came, and immediately he could feel within minutes the pain that had been in his brain, in his head for a long, long time, start to lift. And even though he didn't have the belief system and everything else, it was again his soul's intention for him to heal. And he ended up healing very quickly over just a couple of sessions. And Gary always highly recommended that they go back to the doctor, get the MRIs, get the x-rays, whatever it was, echograms, whatever, to test. And when he went back, they tested him, and there were no tumors in his brain. They were all gone. So it was just fascinating. You never knew who was going to get better and who wasn't.
It was 3 tumors and it was inoperable.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, he really thought he wasn't going to live very long.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was amazing. It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Beautiful story.
Yeah.
Beautiful story.
And the animals too. I like that we put some animal stories in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the animals, that's actually how Gary started. When he came back from the outback, he started working on animals, racehorses, and yeah, and then he eventually started working more and more on people. But yeah, the first animal I brought to him before I really knew him that well was, and we talk about this in the Awakening book too, that a dog had its spine broken, and they were going to have to put it down. And I said, well, I think I know a man who might be able to help you. And Gary healed that dog's spine, and it was fine.
Yeah.
So it was just, and he would put his hand like maybe at the back of your neck, the base of the brain, brain stem.
The chakra.
Yep. And the energy would go where it needed to go. Or if it was a specific part of the body, he'd put his hand there. And I remember the little boy that we had, I can't remember which situation this was. It might have been the one who was blind. He would, because the little boy was so tiny, and Gary was a big guy, he was 6'2", he would put his hand in a fist and just gently put his fist wherever that, the back of the neck or wherever, and the energy would flow through him. And he could tell how many, how much cancer there was in a system, how many, it was just fascinating. He could just see right inside the body.
Yeah.
Pretty
It's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, let's see. So, one of the questions that I wanted to ask is some Westerners who've had contact with Aboriginal people in Australia don't see them as a wise ancient culture with much to offer. How is it that your and Gary's experience of these people is so different? Why don't they see that? Why can't they? Are some tribes more advanced than others, or is it just that they're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, well, I think it's a number of there's a number of reasons for that. Um, I'm not talking about all Aboriginal tribes people because there's a wide diversity there, but I'm talking about that some of the ones who are safeguarded in the outback are living in fifth dimensional dimensions. And
Mhm.
I remember that when I went to the outback, I met some people who were Australian, who they were not Aboriginal, and they said, well, "Why are you coming all the way from the United States to here when you have Native Americans there in the States?" And I thought, good question, never even occurred to me, right?
Mhm.
It's because we have this tainted, prejudicial, judgmental belief system about them. And I think that's why Gary and I were asked to put this book out, this information out, because we had no preconceptions,
Mhm.
clueless about the Aboriginal people. And so
Mhm.
we were able to take this information to meet these people with absolutely no judgment and put it out there exactly the way we saw it. And it was interesting because when I started teaching this information, it became our passion to get this information out to help as many people as possible. And I would go and do, and I remember I was teaching at this conference. All these nurses were doing healing touch, beautiful, beautiful group of women. And I was asking, okay, who can, out of this large group in this large conference room, can anybody see the auras? One gentleman in the back raises his hand. Everything I asked, this gentleman in the back raises his hand. He's an old guy. And I'm like, this guy, there's nothing he can't do. And it turns out he's Native American. And
Ah,
he had these abilities, they had been passed down to him, and he's just very quiet about it. But he had all these amazing abilities. So you never know. Everybody's different, but you never know, who has what. But it is not uncommon to meet Native Americans who have these abilities. Um,
yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. I've met one or two.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I met a Lakota man once, and we were participating in a group, um, and and we started doing healing work together. And he's one of the things that he talked about, told me, was that with herbs, different herbs are good for different conditions, right? And and he would go to like a health food store where they had, loose herbs, right? Or herbs in little baggies and that kind of thing. And he said you can hold the herbs in your hand, a particular herb, and the body will register the signature somehow of that herb, the vibration. And
hmm
then when you're working on someone, and if you're guided that this person needs that herb, you can just transmit
hmm
that vibration to the person. I thought that was very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to realize you can make these flower essences without harming the flower.
Mm,
That there are so much, yeah, there's so much we don't know that we're
yeah.
starting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Um, oh, was I just thinking of asking you? Gary didn't entirely heal from MS. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, well, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that's important to
Yeah.
recognize.
Mhm.
He came back remarkably different. He was
Mhm.
no longer a quadriplegic where he didn't have feeling from the neck down. Now he was a paraplegic, just
Yes.
from the waist down. And he went back to the Outback, I think it was a year later, and said, "You guys need to finish up
Mhm.
what you started. I'm not completely healed." And they said, "That's up to you." But what it amounted to, I believe, is that it was his soul's intention that he not completely heal. That was important for what he was here to learn and to master. And I remember this so well. One of his friends, a really good friend of his, asked him, he saw us struggle. We were trying to meet them for lunch or breakfast. I can't remember which was at this very busy restaurant.
Mm.
And Gary had a hard time. He was still in his wheelchair. Now he had the ability to do more. He could stand up. He could, do a number of things, much more different, much more than he had before he went into the outback. But he still ended up in a chair.
Mhm.
And we went to the restaurant to meet his friend and his wife for dinner, or I mean
Mhm.
lunch, and we could not get that wheelchair through this tightly packed restaurant, and it just was a major chore. And I remember his friend saying, "You must hate that MS, and you must hate that chair." And Gary said, quite dramatically, and Gary was not a dramatic man, but he just kind of pounded his fist down and said it was the best damn thing that ever happened to me. And he never, ever said any kind of a curse word. So he
Mhm.
was making it very clear that it was that the MS, the wheelchair, that slowed him down enough that he could connect to the other side. So that
Yeah.
he ended up doing what the outback, what the Aboriginal people were doing, where he was connecting hours a day. Because before Gary was this, he was on the cover of magazines. He was this very prestigious scientist, globe-trotting around the world, doing business with governments all over the world. Very, very busy man. And the MS slowed him down and made him realize what was really important.
Yeah. He had an aerospace company, Holtz
Yeah.
Industries, that he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
running.
He'd invented a couple of things too. I
Yeah.
mean,
Working with
you
NASA.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
imagine a guy like that. How do you get him to slow down? Well,
Yeah.
so that was again those three components. If the mind's on board, the body's on board, and the soul is on board, it will be completely healed. But the soul was not on board with him healing completely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It would, if nothing else, it would keep you humble. Right?
Keep you humble. It
Um,
changed him quite dramatically. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, so you and Gary were such an effective complementary healing and teaching team. Could you talk about how you worked together? I thought that was so beautifully done. What his role was, what your role was
Yeah.
in these.
Gloria, I really did not appreciate my role. I just thought I was there kind of a support staff for him.
Right.
And I didn't realize that, and it takes the energy of both of us. It took both of us there together. I
Yes.
probably still don't realize the
I
necessary.
think I think you played Rose's part,
Oh, very good. I
right?
hadn't thought about that before.
Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I
You
hadn't
played
thought about that.
Rose's part where you would talk to them and
Yeah.
you would help them to get to the source
That's
of
a very good
their,
point.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was actually much more time intensive because I would help people recognize
Mhm.
what they were doing,
Yeah.
and to help support Gary. Gary's doing the physical work as far as the energy, and it didn't look like he could actually just be in the room.
Mm.
When we would go speak together, I remember I would be doing the speaking. And I think at first people were like, well, we want to hear from him. And then when I started to tell them, he's sitting up here, but he's working on every one of you.
Mm.
I'm speaking, giving you an awareness of what is going on and what's happening and what you need to know, but he's working on you. And so then they were fine, right? As long as they
Mhm.
were working on him. And so Gary would work on them, and I would teach people that, like, listen, he's like a snow blower. He's in there clearing out the snow. And I want to teach you how to stop making it snow so that you
Mhm.
can actually help him, so that you're working together rather than against each other. So we had to find out, what are the emotional blockages? Where are they getting triggered? Your
Mhm.
biggest triggers are telling you where you're getting stuck, and they keep coming until you get it. And one of the stories that it's a true occurrence. I lost a very dear family member to cancer from smoking, and I got really upset with the tobacco companies and with my loved family members who were still smoking. And I ended up finding myself constantly surrounded by smokers. I couldn't seem to get away from them. And when I finally realized, okay, this is their life's journey, they're learning whatever they need to learn through smoking or not taking care of the body or whatever. It has nothing to do with me. And I didn't like it, but I accepted it. And I wasn't getting triggered by it. When I stopped being triggered, the smokers went away. I
Mm.
didn't need it in my life anymore because I got it. I checked that one off the list, right? I got plenty of others I need to learn from. So that's really where you want to start paying attention to what triggers you into any kind of negativity or judgment or anything that's not love-based. That's your homework. That's what you're here to learn. And it will keep coming until you learn it. And it'll come in different ways.
Yeah. And forgiveness. Talk about forgiveness a little bit.
I think forgiveness of self is huge. If we could
Mm-hmm.
learn to forgive ourselves and realize we're here having a human experience, like the Aboriginal people were teaching us, have the emotion, have that feeling, but then let it go. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe you didn't react the way you wanted to. Maybe you would have been more, you wanted to be more patient or gentle or not lose your temper at the traffic or whatever. Have that emotion if that's what comes up, but then let it go and be more gentle with yourself and be forgiving. That's a part of the human experience. And that is how you move forward with love. Always love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and forgiving the past is a big part of it too,
And
right?
realizing that people are here in your life for a reason, that we have these soul contracts with these beautiful, powerful teachers.
Mm.
And that teacher may not be at all what you expected, it may be a family member that you have a really hard time being around. That is a powerful teacher, very deliberately here in your life. Usually it's a family member. There's certain family members because we can't get away from them as easy. We can't quit the job, so to speak.
Mm.
So they're very deliberately here to teach you something, to help you overcome whatever it is that's triggering in you, and to find, and that's what Gary had to come to, is realizing his father was abusive. Yes, he beat him. Yes, he was awful to him in many ways, but he was here to teach him many things. It may not have been the way he wanted to learn it, but it was a powerful teacher. And my guides have said many times, pain is a really powerful teacher.
Mm.
There is nothing wrong with pain. It is so effective at getting people to change, getting people to move forward. Pain is a powerful teacher.
Yes, there's somewhere in the book where it says, where there's like a little exercise that where you feel pain and you say thank you. And you feel it some more and you say thank you. And you just keep saying thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a second step, I think. If it doesn't go away
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
away,
What are you
you,
here to teach me?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, what are you here to teach me? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. You're right. Because we were
Yeah.
talking earlier about, if you are holding on to grief and not letting go of that, you will develop a physical, eventually over time,
Mhm.
you get enough toxicity, you develop in that area. Kidneys are very family oriented. It's very specific sometimes. I found this in Chinese medicine. It talks about how intense emotions are held in the body's organs. Grief lurks in the lungs. Anger inhabits the liver. Fretfulness lingers in the heart. Worry is held in the stomach, and kidneys harbor fright. So if you're constantly having a lot of fear, or whatever, you are just creating problems in those specific areas. And it comes back again to those 5 steps. You need to start having an awareness
Mhm.
doing this so that you can stop and shift it. And we give a lot of examples of how to shift it because everybody's different. Everybody has different tools.
Mhm.
The Awakening book talks an awful lot about, your mind is sabotaging, but I don't know how to stop it, right? So we talk about that. And I have an online course that we put up because I got to the point where I couldn't do all the consultations from when you have a books in 45 countries, it's 45 now. You get a lot of call. It's interesting how many people know English. I'm surprised. But so we wanted to get this information out to as many people as possible, how to do that, how to heal yourself. So we have an online course. We have a lot of free information up on the website and the books to help people become their own healers.
Right. And there are quite a few accounts of people who Gary healed at a distance, that they would just reach out to him and he would heal them at a distance.
Right. We that was out of necessity. So many people, we couldn't keep up with it. And it got to the point where all he needed to know was their first name and what city they were in. And that was enough that his healing spirit team could connect and work with them remotely. So he ended up working with people all over the world remotely. It
Mm.
didn't even have to be on a phone call or video or anything else. It's that, I mean, it's just crazy that this physicist would be doing something like that. I'm sure he never ever imagined, but it really was effective. And I just got a call beautifully from a woman yesterday from Australia.
Uh,
She connected to me and she called me and said, I want you to know I had cancer years ago and I talked to you and your team said I would heal from it. I didn't even remember the woman, but she was just so grateful that it had healed. And that I never met her. She was in Australia, but I was just communicating, and my spirit team knows how to hook up with her team
mm,
and help her. And it was obviously her soul's intention for her to heal. And she did what she needed to do so that the body could physically heal and that the emotions were not creating the problem, but they were actually creating a vibrant body that sustains itself.
mhm.
So
Do you get do you still get reports from people who maybe read the books and reach out to Gary and have
yes.
experiences?
Yes, it's funny that you would say that. I do. And I never know. I get emails, I get calls, I get an awful lot of emails
Mhm.
um, because the book is published in many languages as well. And so I get emails and so many of them, Gloria, they start out, this is going to sound crazy, and I'm like, no, probably not. But, I remember this one woman from Canada sent me an email and it said this may sound crazy, but I'd actually heard this from a number of other people too. She said, because everybody has different abilities, right? She said, I just thought you'd get a kick out of this. I just bought your book and I handed it to my husband, and the receipt is in the book. And I wanted him to hold on to it while I was trying to find something in my purse. And then I took the book back. His hands now have a different color from holding that book, the aura, the energy. She said the book had different colors from the energy. The receipt had different colors from the energy that
Uh,
was coming. There's healing coming off of this book. And it's not just me. There are Aboriginal healers who have passed over, and some are still alive, who are sending out energy through these books.
mm,
And it's interesting because I did not know that at the time, that it was that powerful. And I knew that when I worked with people and did consultations, I could feel the energy moving through me to them. It was always over the phone or the computer. And my guys want me to write a book this summer, over the summer months. I'll start it in 2 weeks. And they have been downloading so much energy into me for the last 6 weeks. It's to the point where it's like, holy moly, I am really dizzy. You guys need to back off or help me adjust a little bit. And this is just preparing me to write this book. And what they're telling me is that this is because the energy needs to go through you into the book and then it goes out. And I didn't really realize how it works that way with emails too. They'll tell me, I'll ask them everything I do related to work. I'm like, do you want me to respond to this woman now? And they're like, no, why don't you wait until after you've meditated? And it's because there's energy that they've increased now. It's responding to through the
mm.
emails. It's
Yeah,
I don't
isn't
think
that
we really
something?
realize how much
Yeah,
energy comes off of us,
yeah.
all of us.
Talk about Mother Mary and your
Oh,
introduction to her.
oh my goodness. Mother Mary is just my biggest influence. She is well, I was raised Catholic, and I think I'm not a practicing Catholic. But I was raised Catholic, I think, because I needed to understand who Mother Mary was and her
Mm,
connection. But she is the one who, she's very much behind my work. I met a woman, again, this was years ago, where this was like felt really crazy to me before I knew any of this, because I was raised in a very conservative Catholic upbringing. And I met a woman who was who channeled Mother Mary, and it just really resonated. Her love, her warmth, her wisdom, the gentleness is just extreme. And it really connected to me. And so Mother would guide me. She became part of my team.
mhm,
She became a huge part of my healing spirit team that I have, I think she heads it up. And I have a lot of archangels. I have Aboriginal healers, Gary, who has passed since 2007. She's part of that healing team. And she's the one who encouraged me to write some of these books. And she's the one who puts the energy into, or she's part of the team that puts the energy into these books. I think she's the one that asked me to write the second book, the Awakening book. I think that,
yes, I think so.
and she's very, very much into being of service. How can you be of service, beloved? How can you help serve others? I mean, setting up appropriate boundaries, and she was the first one to teach me as a healer. You don't just go in and heal them. You wait till they ask you. You wait till they're ready, because there's nothing wrong with them. If that's fine, whatever they're dealing with. But that was a hard lesson as a healer to realize. Especially when my son was dealing with life and death, and I, as a mother, needed to and a healer, just sit there and be the mother and wait until he asked me to help heal, if he ever did, which that wasn't something that he was comfortable with. I needed to be.
I don't remember that. That wasn't in the book, was it?
I may not have been, but he had developed this rare form of lymphoma. It was a cancer that was killing him very quickly. I think it might have been in the Awakening book. I had gone to France. I'd been to Mother Mary.
Yes, I remember you going to France.
Right. Okay. So I came back and then found out that he had this life-threatening cancer. And so I would sit by his side in the hospital for 6 months.
Wow.
And I didn't know that I would be radiating this healing energy to him from his bedside. And then when he was sleeping, when he got his medicine, he'd sleep. I would walk through the cancer wards, through the hospital, sending this healing energy out, all over. Perfect timing. And he survived, but he needed to go through that experience because of how it changed him. But I remember being very careful that he needs me to be a mother. He was not comfortable with me being a healer or a medium, and none of that. So it's like, okay, whatever comes off of me comes off of me. But I knew the emotional component that was creating the problem. But I knew, until he asked me, it's not appropriate for me to go in and try to fix it. Right. And I was vibrating. I had been to France we were making a movie for Mary Magdalene. And so I was vibrating at a very high frequency, having spent a month in Mary Magdalene's path. And I came back just very high frequency, sitting next to my son in the hospital bed, hoping that he would stay, but being okay if he chose not to, and that's that's a hard one. But I was at peace with whatever happened. When you get into a high enough frequency, you're at peace with whatever is.
Yes.
So yeah, a lot of lessons.
And he did get better.
He did get better. That was many years ago. Now he has a beautiful 9-year-old and a beautiful marriage. And he had literally just got off the plane from his honeymoon and went straight to the doctor to find out, you have a cancer. But I think over time, he did start to realize that it was the emotional components that had created that. He got extremely stressed out, and the woman that he was, it was a situation where he was graduating, and a number of other people were graduating from the university, and the university didn't want to give them their degree. They wanted all of them to take another class, and it was not part of the thing. And he got into the heat where he ended up representing all the students, the graduate students, and the person from the administration. And so it was these two, my son and this woman, they both got very, very sick. They both ended up in the hospital. So it became very clear to both of them that was extreme stress. And it's that extreme sustained stress that creates the problem. And so they both realized, and it's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. It seems like one of the things that I come across a lot lately in YouTube presentations and in the news, or, healing wise, is trauma. So, and it seems like there's in some cases and some experts, trauma experts, it seems like the message is that trauma is just this very entrenched kind of, and it is. I mean, I know that it is, but that it's almost impossible to heal. And as I read Gary's book, I thought, well, he had tremendous trauma.
Mhm.
But those 5 steps, those 5 essential steps, really did the work where he was able to get over all the emotional baggage that the trauma had caused, and his, I think it's an important thing. I think it's very important to recognize trauma so you're not blaming, yourself but I think one of the biggest lessons that it seemed, one of the hardest steps for him was forgiving his father. And I don't know, I guess I just want to get a message out there that trauma is healable. Do
It
you
is
have,
healable.
yeah,
And releasing it. That was what
yeah.
it's really about. How are you going to react to it?
Mhm,
Continue to react to it, and to let it go, to release it. Again, you
mhm,
may not like it, but at least accept that it happened for a reason. And I think Gary came to understand his dad was the way he was because it was what his soul needed to teach him. Not he wasn't clearing karma, it was to teach him
mhm,
extreme levels of compassion, extreme levels of forgiveness. And
mhm.
I'm glad that you brought up trauma, because I think people don't realize how much that plays into the blockage of energy that creates
Yes.
themselves. And I think I talk about in the Awakening book how there was I mean, this is, you can look it up online, the experiment where the mice were given, the traumatized mice.
Mhm,
um, I don't know if you remember it, but they did an experiment where they would shock mice when they were smelling cherries or almonds because it was their favorite food. So whenever they smelled that, they got shocked. And what they found out was that generations down the road, those mice that were related also had the same reaction to the smell of
mhm,
cherries and almonds, even though they had not gone through the actual shock itself, because it's part of their DNA, it's part of that blueprint. And so
mhm,
it's that ancestral trauma. And sometimes we come in to help heal that. You
mhm,
deliberately incarnate into a family to heal that. Maybe it's depression. Maybe it's this, whatever it is, but you're here to finally heal it. And that frees future generations from them creating that trauma again. You end it. So
mhm,
you may have to go through some experiences wondering, why did I bring this on? Why would I attract that? Why would
mhm,
I manifest it? Well, you may have done it on a soul level because you needed to go through these things to experience it for whatever your soul's journey was. I almost died twice.
mhm,
And when I delivered my son back in 85, I was given a blood transfusion, which was really unnecessary, but they gave it to me because I needed to be, it was tainted with hepatitis C. And the hepatitis almost killed me. And then the experimental treatments that the doctors put me on almost killed me. So I
mhm,
survived these really slim odds. And the doctor said, well, you'll always have hepatitis C. There's just no curing it. And at the time, there wasn't. But that's when I decided I want to survive. My son is too little. And I set about to heal myself and took my power back and completely healed myself and cured myself of what they said was incurable. And the doctors who were doing a lot of the experiments on hepatitis C were here at the University of Seattle, in Seattle, Washington. And they were some of the top experts in the country. They would test me quite regularly every 6 months and said, you don't have it anymore. We don't know
mhm,
how that happened, but you don't have it anymore. Well, I knew why I didn't have it anymore, because I had learned, I had changed the way I was responding. I was really into stress, and I just love juggling stress. How many phones can I have ring at the same time, you know? And so, but what happened was my soul wanted me to heal. Finally, I got my emotions in check to heal, and I got my body. I started taking better care of my body so that those three components were now aligned with healing. And that needed to happen. I needed to go through that because I did not know it would put me on this quest of lifelong, passionately teaching people how to heal. And
Yeah.
if I hadn't gone through that, there's no way I could teach that.
If you hadn't gone through that, you might still be a court reporter.
Yes, I would have been a court reporter for, yeah, exactly. And living this life that was not at all what my soul intended. You know, we were
Right.
building this gigantic home, and it was just, so I needed to go through that. So when things happen, that's why you ask, okay, why is this here?
Mhm.
Why is this here? And if it's bothering me, why is it bothering me? Because it'll
Mhm.
be like those smokers. My guides are so funny. They're like, oh, we have so many ways of teaching this and bringing this to you. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
so the sooner I get it and
Mhm.
stop being triggered by it and let it go, the
Mhm.
faster I can, like the Aboriginals, you know, like, all right, I felt it, experienced it. Let it go. What's next?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think I should give other people a chance to ask you some questions. So let's open it up. Okay. So anybody have a question or a comment? Ginny.
Um, I am particularly interested in dream time since I seem to be becoming more of a dreamer and my dreams are changing, and I'm just real curious of where we're going with this. My guides don't really talk to me so I can understand them, but I think they're having fun with this whole process.
Mhm.
They say, I'll know what I need to know when it's time for me to know it. And I'm like, but what do I do in the meantime? So I just thought the Aboriginal concept of dream time, that seems to be where a lot of the action happens. And
Mhm.
I would like to know more about that. So
Okay.
you've got three books there.
Or
What was the
Actually,
most?
Jenny, I have four. The fourth one is not really mainstream, so I don't really, it's more for exactly what you just asked about. It's a fourth book called Vibrant Living, Braving the Pandemic with Help from Your Guardian Angels. And it's not necessarily about the pandemic as much as it is how to develop a stronger connection with your guides and angels. It's a 60-day guidebook. It's like a page a day, maybe 2 pages a day. And it teaches you exactly what you're just asking. How do I develop a stronger connection to what they're trying to tell me, convey? And how do I usually receive that information? Because some people hear it, very few people hear it, very few people see them. And so you'll find ways, I list all the ways that they will communicate to you, how you know you're on the right track, how to raise your frequency so that it's easier to feel. We talk about dreams in there and all that sort of thing. So that's why the guides asked me to put that book together, was so that anybody can connect to their team and find it, because that's like, they've told me it's like going from 5 amps of power on your own to 5,000 amps of power with their help. It is a big game changer. And we are all designed to have this help. And they specifically, especially with your guardian angel, it's easiest to connect with your guardian angel. Everybody has at least one, if not more. And it's easiest to connect with them. They're like sort of the gatekeepers, they're the first responders. They're there, and it's easier for you to connect to them. And then you can certainly, and the book talks about, Vibrant Living talks about how to connect to people who have passed over, and how you're not affecting them, you're not hampering what they're trying to do or whatever. And also how to work with spirit guides and the different kinds of, spirit guides. And so that's what that book was put together, was not for mainstream, but for people like you, Jenny, who would, you're ready to start connecting better, have a stronger relationship. How do I do that? And how do I start utilizing their help for anything and everything? Everything. It's a huge game changer.
Mhm.
when I was writing when we were writing the book, I had a co-writer. She kept Christiane, and my guides are like, yeah, it's like going at 5 amps of power on your own versus 5,000 with us. She kept changing it to 500 because 5,000 just seemed crazy to her, and they're like, no, it is 5,000. It is a huge, huge leap of you're still in control. You are making the choices, but you have their assistance if you're open to it. But because it's a free will planet, we have to ask before they can step in and really intervene. But when they do, it's huge. And that is probably the best piece of advice I can give you, is to connect to your team. We're designed that way. That's that inner GPS. And use the dream time or whatever, but they will convey to you through dream time. Hang on, let me just ask them a question. No, okay. I was just curious. One of the other ways, when I used to, when I first started down this path, and when Gary passed in 2007, that's when I started realizing, oh, I have these abilities too. I never bothered, expanding on him because he's so good. Why would I bother? But then when he passed, he woke me up to the fact that I had these abilities too. And when I would wake up during the night, I had a digital clock, and I would pay attention to the numbers, and the numbers would be a message for me. And we talk about that I talk about that in Vibrant Living too, how to find sources for that.
Thank you.
If I asked you to at some point come back and talk about that book, would you?
Yes, we'd love to. Oh yeah,
Okay.
we'd love to.
So
Well, this is a really quick, it's a quick, easy 60-day guide. And that's the one they want me to update this summer. And because it's like times have changed, we've changed. So if you wait till the end of the summer, Gloria, it should be updated. And then I'm curious what they want to add to it, because I'm just putting down what they want me to. They're the ones that are conveying the energy and the information. So
okay, I'm gonna just make a note of that and reach out.
I'll tell you what, I'll contact you when I have it ready. I'll send it to you.
Okay, that would be great. That would be great. Anybody else have a question or a comment? Oh, and I just wanted to mention one thing in case Ginny needs to know. When we talk about dream time, it's not just the time at night when we're dreaming, because the Aboriginal people, when they're meditating, that's called dream time too.
Yeah.
They'll just stand and stare into space. And Gary thought, he didn't know what to think about that at first. He'd noticed that people were just standing around staring into space, and he had no idea that they were in their dream time and they were meditating and doing all kinds of things.
Yeah, it's a deeper conscious state. But I think that I just took it into you dreaming at night, because they will convey a lot of information to us at nighttime because we're quiet.
Yes.
Our minds are down.
Yes, and our conscious mind is kind of in abeyance, it's not ruling the show. The ego isn't ruling the show, right? It's just one player in a sense, and so it's easier, especially like with deceased loved ones. I think it's easier for them to contact us at night when we're asleep. Because
so Jenny, if you get a thought that's right there when you wake up during the night or first thing in the morning, it's that first thought that's usually from the other side. It's that second.
I write them down.
Yeah, good. And it's the second or third thought. Okay, now the mind is engaged.
Yeah.
That first thought. Yeah. So that's one of the ways that my team is telling me, that's one of the ways they communicate to you right now while you're in these stages. Beginning stages, but you have really strong capabilities. So what I would do is I would say, thank you for helping me develop this as much as possible. Then we put it in their hands, and now we've given them permission, and that's all you have to do. Thank you. Now follow the guidance.
Yeah, well, that's the catch. It's like, no, wait, I have to do these errands. I mean, that was just today. I have to do these errands today. And they're going, no, you need to go to Birch Hill and take a walk today. And so I finally did.
Yeah,
I
then you
went.
can say, thank you for helping me. And I like to say, thank you. Thank you for helping me easily follow your guidance.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of saying,
I'm getting better about it.
yeah, let's do this with grace and ease and joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And I
I'm
also
sure they're
wanted to,
rolling their eyes, but
Oh,
I'm
they love
trying.
us. They do not lose patience with us. They cherish us. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, and I think another facet of that dream time is that they are transcending the space-time continuum.
Yes. Yes.
And you
Absolutely.
do that in your dreams too. That's why we can have precognitive dreams and,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, because they're not limited to that space-time.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else have something to say or ask? Yes. Hold on, Charlie, or are you Charlie?
Surely.
Oh, wait, you're muted, so you have to unmute. What's that? Oh, somebody who's speaking. Raise your hand if you, oh, Shirley. Okay, Shirley.
This may be kind of a strange
Oh, I love
question,
those.
but I'm interested in the telepathy and also listening. Is the listening when you go into meditation and you try to get the thoughts out of your mind, and get quiet, and then listen. Is there a difference between telepathy and your intuition and what you're kind of listening for? Are you listening through telepathy?
Telepathy is when, I'll just describe it the way it works for me. You get this, there's many different kinds of telepathy. The way it's like Gary could communicate telepathically to birds or animals, or people, the thoughts were just coming back and forth. And I'm telepathic with my guides, where they just give me a whole bunch of information without having to say anything. It's not word for word. It's just you have this knowing of maybe a whole bunch of information very quickly, split second. You have that knowing, and that's the same thing when you go. It's like you were talking about the intuition, that quieting the mind, because that inner guidance is very quiet and subtle. Isn't that interesting? It's very deliberately like that, so that we have to quiet that mind so that we can feel it or sense it or know it.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question, Shirley?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that in this other book?
That's in the Vibrant Living.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and actually, all of this information about how to connect to your guides is in the Angels in Waiting book. That's the Angels in Waiting is more of it's a beautiful book about the people that I worked with and the stories around that, and how I was taking what most people are challenged by, finding the things that are commonly where people are challenged in relationships, financial, career, whatever, and using the people that I had helped as examples and how to do that, how to work with the team, how to get their help. The Vibrant Living is more like a slim little 60-day guidebook on how to do it. It's like, here's your list. The Angels in Waiting is more of the stories. They're beautiful stories. They're real, of this is what happened. This is how he did it. This is how she experienced that. But the Vibrant Living is more of a like, okay, here's one day, and you do it in order.
How do you get your book?
They're all on Amazon. Go to my website, holzwellness.com. That's where a lot of information is. There's a lot of blogs up there. It's HOLZ wellness.com. You can ask your local bookstore to order them, but it's all over. But there is an awful lot of free information on the website about connecting with the guides, how you know they're responding, how you know when you're on track, a lot of that. We're really just trying to get that information out as much as we can.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, so the Vibrant Living is 60-day guidebook, and then the Angels is Waiting it's the same information, but it's a little bit more with stories.
I
Yeah.
see. So the Vibrant Living is more like a workbook, and this is the
Yes.
narrative.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Great. Anyone else? Maya? Oh, Arlie. Let's do Maya first and then Arlie.
I was fascinated with your talk about when you have the energy of the book in your hands and how that passes on healing. And I have a lot of experience with receiving information from many different guides, from the Magdalene to Grandfather Black Elk, and many that I just call grandmother, grandfather. And my question is, there's always so much information coming in, and I am also a writer, and yet I have a hard time like understanding how do I share what I have to offer, and how, because there's so much coming in now and I get so excited and then life comes in.
Yeah.
So I feel like, is there, I'm not even sure how my question can be.
I understand what you're asking. Like, what do you do? What direction do you take with this information and writing and all that sort of thing? What I would highly recommend, no matter what it is, you hand it over to your team. Your team is here to help you live your soul's intentions. And so they know whether your soul intends for you to write a book and what that book should be and how to do it. So I would hand the whole thing over to them. Thank you for guiding me, and not just guiding, but assisting. And if you're not sure, tell them, I'm not sure. Then just be patient. They'll give you that information when it's time, because sometimes they have to put different pieces of the puzzle together before you finally make it all make sense. There might be divine timing involved. But if you were supposed to do something, well, then thank you for helping me know what that is. And thank you for helping me do it, so that you are getting that, your soul's intentions and desires accomplished in the way that's best. And that's why they can make it so much easier if you follow the guidance rather than the mind, because the mind doesn't know the best way. It was never designed to be doing that. We're asking it to do things. It's a powerful tool. The mind is a powerful tool, but it doesn't always know the best career, the best, whether you're supposed to write a book or what it's about. But that inner guidance does know. And the team, you have a team, they can help you with that. And maybe, because I used to get asked a lot in consultations, am I supposed to make a movie? Am I supposed to write a book? And sometimes it was only for yourself, write that book. But sometimes it was yes, and you're supposed to teach it. And this is a company that they suggest you go check out. So let them help you every step of the way. That way the mind doesn't have to try to figure it out. When you're trying to figure it out, that's how you know your mind has stepped in behind the steering wheel again. And both the angel books talk about that. The Vibrant Living and the Angels in Waiting both talk about how to get that mind powerfully assisting rather than constantly getting behind the wheel, taking you down alleys that are just wasting a lot of your time, energy, and money. That makes sense?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Arlie?
I'm so overwhelmed. There's so many layers. I'm trying to get this really simplified to ask you. First of all, I want to tell you how excited I am at everything you've said. I have a practice of my own. I've worked with people for years doing soul retrievals and extractions and helping. And there are times when I really see, if I'm sitting in front of someone and close my eyes, I see. And there are grandmothers and all sorts of beings who come in and say, tell them. And so I'm grateful, because just literally yesterday, I just said to someone, I feel like I need to learn these things. And you are just saying what I just yesterday said, I need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, bless both of you. Bless, Gloria, and bless you for that. My other thing right now, the thing that I'm very deeply concerned about is my grandson, who's a beautiful young man who happens to live in Seattle, who's bedridden. He's only 21. He developed a scoliosis when he was 16 or 17. It's gotten worse. Now his knees don't work. His back is a mess. They're thinking about testing him for MS and ALS. He's in despair, and he's just this profoundly intelligent, deeply compassionate human being who I'm deeply connected with. We all are in our little family. And I know some things about his past life that he came into here with. And I worry that he's like feeling like he has to pay penance for it. So when you talk about those emotional things, I wonder if he, and his grandfather wonders this too, is he walking this walk? He's right there in Seattle. Can I send them to you? Or I'm going to go read all your books.
Yeah, okay. You bring up a number of things. Can I just talk to my team for just a second about him? Let me just ask them a couple questions. Okay, this is what I'm getting, what they're telling me is that this is something his soul, these experiences that he's going through, this is a soul contract that he's got to go through these things, to learn, because they're going to teach him some very powerful things. It's not, and that you have this soul contract with him to love him and support him through all of this, you know? So, and it's not about what I would do if it were me. I would ask my team, guide me through this. Help me be the best grandmother I can be. Help me be the best healer I can be, whatever that might be, whether it's saying nothing or whatever. But then you allow them to guide you and help you become the best support system you can be. And sometimes that means no judgment. Sometimes that means being very quiet, but let them, and then other times you might find words coming out of your mouth. You're like, I don't know where that came from, but it's exactly what he needed to hear. And thank you for what you said in the beginning when you talked about you have this team, because it's a beautiful thing that I had not brought up that I think you brought to our awareness. People would come to me all the time and do consultations. I don't do them anymore. It just got to be too much. And so I'm just writing books to get this information out there. But people used to come to me from all over, and they were coming younger and younger. They were coming in highly evolved, all saying, how can I live my soul's vision? What am I here to do? How can I, what's the best thing? And my team would always say, be a better team player. Be the human member of the team. Work together. You've got this powerful team with you. Be the human member. You're the legs on the ground, right? You're the boots on the ground. So work together as a team. You're the human member where they use you for the hugs, for the wisdom, for the smile.
And for the energy.
And the energy, absolutely. So they would guide you as to where to go. And I knew if I got stuck in a long line at the store, I probably needed to be in that line on purpose, or whoever I'm sitting next to in the airplane for hours. That was very deliberate for both of us. So if you can be a better team player, and that's what Vibrant Living talks about, is how to be a better team player, because you guys are all very old souls with tremendous abilities. So start tapping into that and letting them work through you. Again, you have free will, your choice, but let them guide you. Sitting at this round table with all these beautiful, powerful beings, the one who should not be in charge at the head of the table is your head. It should be, a higher evolved soul, a more connected to the, that inner wisdom, not the egoic mind that's a tool that doesn't know what to do with that or how to guide you. So tell them, make it easier, make it more clear, make it more obvious, or bring me more, You work together as a team. Tell them what works and what doesn't work. Keep me calm, keep me patient. Thank you. Make it fun.
It's a little frustrating since I'm in Colorado and he's in Seattle.
Well, but obviously that's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also
So,
feel like it's important for me to know what to do and how to walk. So.
right. Well, then that's where you ask your team, thank you for helping me know the best ways to support him.
Yeah.
And then I would tune in. Am I supposed to call him? Am I supposed to send him a note in the mail, a card? How? And sometimes they're like, yes. And sometimes they're like, no, he needs to learn right now what he needs to learn. You're going to guide, they will guide you. And not only are they guiding you and assisting you, again, that 5 amps of power versus 5,000, it's a huge empowerment that's available to you if you ask.
I've already sent him Tyson Yunkaporta's book, Sand Talk, and now I want to send him yours. Which one do you think I should send of yours that would help him?
Okay, let me just tune in because I think they just gave me the answer. Okay, here's where the best way you can help him. It kind of reminds me of my son. This was not something he resonated with. They're saying he's got his own team guiding him into what he needs at the moment. Okay. If he's ready for my books, they would say that, but he's not ready for those. So that's where he might be later, then they'll tell you. It'll make it very obvious. Okay. But right now, no. Right now, I think what you are tasked with, let me just double check. Yes, they're saying yes. What you are tasked with is acceptance of what is. And it's there for a reason. And you're here and he's there. All different reasons that it has come to play the way it has. So thank you for helping me maneuver through this with grace, ease, and joy.
Okay. Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can I just say, they just said, they just gave me this. They said, you got this. You got this. And you know what? When I start to cry, and I'm holding back the tears right now, it's because it's such a strong message. They want you to know you got this.
Oh, I'm crying too.
Yeah. It's so strong. I'm just holding back the tears. They really want you to know you got this. And we can help you with it. Don't ever feel like you have to do this alone.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Robbie, would you take a few minutes and do that meditation? Give all of us that beautiful meditation, which is in this book, The Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening.
It's on page 160.
161.
Can you believe how smart we were? We actually titled that guided meditation. That's what we call that.
Yeah.
It's funny. These were so long ago. I don't really remember. But so this is just it's a quick, simple little guided meditation that I think this is what the guides asked me to say and to do. So,
and also this might be something perfect for Arlie's grandson.
I think for all of us.
Yes, for everyone, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this will just be a couple minutes. If everybody can, and if you want to, you can, get rid of your video or whatever, but just close your eyes if you could. And everybody just take a couple of deep breaths. Let's just take 2 or 3 full deep breaths and really feel the body as you exhale. And now take another deep breath and release it and just focus on your breath. And as thoughts drift in, just let them gently drift out. Now scan your body and release any tension that you find. And if you find tension in your body, breathe into those areas. Now take another deep breath and let go of your day. And let go of your journey here for just this moment. And focus on your heart space. And connect to your body. Ask your body what it would like you to do more of. Stay focused on your heart space. Ask your body what it wants you to stop doing. What thought patterns do you need to let go of because they are unhealthy and no longer serve you? Is there a more loving and compassionate thought you can put in its place? Now continue breathing in and out of your heart space. And ask your soul what it's been guiding you away from that you've been resisting. Ask your soul what it's been guiding you toward. Now see if you can sense your spirit guides and angels around you. Can you feel their presence? And don't worry if you can't feel anything. Just stay open and relaxed. Now, if you wish to, hand over your challenges to your spirit team. Your health, your relationships, your work and career. Your team can assist you in all aspects of your life. They want to help you more. Allow their loving wisdom to guide you. Give your divine team all your burdens. Beautifully, every time they help you, they grow in love because they're serving the divine in a physical body by serving you. Know that you are never alone. They walk by your side. With an intention to merge with them, use your breath and pull their energy into your body. These are loving beings we're working with. Breathe them into your lungs. Feel their energy join with yours and expand into your body, filling you with peace and love. Now extend this combined force out into your aura, the energy fields that surround you and are a part of you. Now have the intention of sending this healing light and peace into the earth and all who live on her. And imagine this healing light moving from your heart into the world. And with each exhalation, imagine sending this beautiful light rippling out farther and farther until the entire earth is bathed in this beautiful, shimmering energy and light, sending healing, peace, and love to the whole planet. Now bring your attention back slowly to your heart space and have the intention that everything is in balance and alignment in your body. Feel yourself grounding back to the earth and feel the earth beneath you, embracing you. Take 3 deep breaths to release the meditation. Wiggle your fingers and toes and gently open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you, Robbie.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you so much. And thank you for coming this evening, and thank you all who attended. And
What a beautiful group, huh?
yeah, and we'll look forward to your book, your next book, and I'll look forward to the ones I haven't read yet. And
Okay.
and we'll be in touch at the end of the summer, I hope.
Yes. It's so
Okay.
nice to meet you, Gloria.
Okay.
Beautiful, powerful,
Wonderful.
loving beings here. I just
Yes.
send you gratitude and light and love.
Oh, thank you. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.